Hey you guys, Jeremy from Plastic Fantastic Climbing, and thanks again for watching. If my voice sounds kind of, weird or hoarse or whatever, I'm really sorry. I'm sick, and I've been kind of laying in bed, kind of taking care of myself, just kind of watching movies, reading books, but God, I really love my bed, and my bed's awesome, and I have like all my movies and all my books all around me, and it's such a great way just for me to take care of myself. So I've been laying in bed, and I haven't really been doing much in terms of my career as a photographer director. But on top of that, anything in terms of like Plastic Fantastic Climbing or just climbing in general. So I was laying in bed and I thought, oh, you know what? Let's do a video to talk about, we've got this brand new rope from Trango. Thank you, Trango. And, when should we retire our old rope and get a new rope? Just because when you buy a new rope, like, this thing is not supposed to last you forever. Think of this as like just a normal pair of shoes. You know how like when you walk, the more you walk, the more you put wear and tear on the bottom of your shoes? Well, the more you climb, the more wear and tear you put on your rope. So there's going to be signs as to when should you retire your rope, because there will be like little tiny indicators that will tell you when you should retire your rope. And that's kind of like what I wanted to talk about, and I'm basically just sharing just like little tiny tidbits. I still really suggest that you guys go to YouTube and Google all of this. Use this as some sort of guideline and some kind of like little tips and hints that we use, but don't use it as like a buy all end all, this is the 100% answer of like when you should retire your rope. Just kind of use it as like, oh, this is kind of like what Jeremy and what his team kind of suggest as to like when you should retire your rope. But on that note, let's talk about it. Alright, so first and foremost, let's talk about how your rope is constructed. Just very simply, think of it as your rope is constructed with the core and the sheath. The core is the thing that will take the brunt of your falls, and the purpose of it is that there is going to need to be something that has like the strength and the elasticity to kind of take your falls when you take like a huge whipper or a little whipper or any fall. And the core is the thing that does that, and the sheath is the thing that protects the core. So on that note, one of the things that you can do for yourself is always flake your rope. I mean, we're told that from the very beginning when we first learn how to sport climb, or when we first learn about our rope and taking it outdoors. Always flake your rope, and then when you flake your rope, one of the things that you're going to look for is that you're going to look for any kind of signs of wear and tear on the rope. One of the signs is that if you look and you feel like there's some kind of like cut in your rope, and that cut exposes the core, if you can see the core, or if there's like a little cut in there and you can see like the inside of the rope, definitely a time for you to get a new rope, for sure. Because anytime that there's going to be a cut in there, that's going to just leave the core exposed for there to be some kind of friction for that rope to just wear down, and that's really, really bad news. And on that note, you'll notice that the core will have some kind of shape to it, and one of the things that you can do is that the rope should have some elasticity to it, right? Dynamic ropes are made that way, and obviously this video is about dynamic ropes. And so, there's going to be some kind of elasticity to the rope, and when the rope is stiff, so you'll notice that the rope will have like some stiff points. This is my old rope, and I did not wear down the rope so far that I have like really horrible stiff spots for me to show you. But if there's any stiff parts to the rope, that is a great sign. Another thing is that if you see flatness, the rope is made obviously cylindrical, and if that shape is changed and you get like there's going to be a flat spot, so it's no longer cylindrical and round and whatever, that is another great sign. So the flat rope or the flat core is really what's happening. And that flat core is a sign that, you know, you are losing, just like the stiffness, you're losing elasticity, right? It's pretty much like you can think of those two things as the rope is deformed, right? You have like a deformity in the rope or a deformity in the core. And both of those are great signs that it's time to get a new rope. The other thing is that the sheath is made to protect the rope. So if you notice that your sheath is starting to fray, and a great sign for that is that the sheath is super fuzzy. So if you see like fuzzy rope syndrome, where it kind of looks like a caterpillar, because that's what it looks like to me, ooh, super good sign that it's, again, time to retire your rope. And I'll probably say that over and over again, because I really, really mean that. You know, like if you see any defects or anything wrong with your rope, like don't climb on it. Be safe. You know, don't put yourself at risk, because you know, here at Plastic Fantastic, we just love you guys. So we don't want anything to happen to you guys. So let's go over them. Exposed core, stiffness, kind of flatness to the rope, and a fuzzy rope are all really, really great signs that you should probably retire your rope. Let's talk about one more thing though. So the thing that I want to talk to you about your rope is that your rope can only take a certain amount of falls. Meaning that you can only take, God, I wish I could give you a number, because you know that would be great if I could, but there is no definitive answer to this. But just know that every time you take a fall, it ruins or shortens the life of your rope. And the reason I really emphasize this is that those other things that we talked about, like the exposed core, the deformed rope, all of those things that we talked about earlier, you can physically like look at your rope and go, oh, my rope looks fuzzy, right? And then that is like a physical sign for you to visually tell that, you know, your sheath is wearing down. Or, you know, like if you see an exposed core, another visual sign. But the thing that you can't tell is how many falls your rope has taken, which is why you would never, ever, ever buy a used rope off eBay or Craigslist, because you don't know how many falls the rope has taken. Because essentially the rope will look like a rope, and then there won't really be like a very huge physical sign that a lot of falls have been taken on the rope. So it prompts me to say that when you have your rope, that what you should do is every time you take a big fall on it, no, God, I hate saying that. Every time you take a fall, every single time you take a fall on the rope, jot that down somewhere, right? You should jot down that, you know, that you took a fall on it, because that fall is gonna add some wear and tear to your rope. And there is no physical sign for that, but you should know. As the owner of the rope, you should know how many falls have been taken on that rope, because you know that's gonna matter. That's gonna matter. So if you have to like get like a little like moleskin or something, like just jot it down and write, you know, like that you took falls on the rope, because you should know. Because there is no physical way to like look at the rope and say, oh, it's taken, you know, 20 falls. So you should just know that. You should just know. And obviously my voice has changed because I'm emphasizing it, but the other things are very physical. Like you can, as you flake the rope, you can physically inspect that. But the other thing is that you can't. You know, like you can't tell from just looking at the rope how many falls it's had. You know, it's difficult. so you guys should, that's the other thing. So on top of the physical signs, the deformed rope, the fuzzy caterpillar looking rope, you know, the exposed core, besides those things that we talked about earlier, the amount of falls is going to be another indicator to you know, like when you should retire your rope. So how, I guess the next question is, how can you, I guess, prolong the life of your rope? Or at least, you know, you bought a new rope, so how do you take care of the rope? I guess taking care of the rope is a good question, is like really the question. How do you take care of the rope? Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's definitely talk about that. All right, how can we, I guess, prolong the life of our rope? Here are some of the things that you want to think about when you're storing your rope, or when you're out and about, or just when you're thinking about like the longevity of your rope. First, dirt. Try not to lay your rope out on the dirt. I know that sounds weird, but the more dirty your rope is, what ends up happening is that the dirt or sand, if you live here in Southern California, the dirt and sand will get into the sheath and then work its way down, and then when it works its way down to the core, that extra friction will add wear and tear to the rope. So imagine that there's all these little tiny particles messing with the core of your rope. Obviously that's bad. Sun exposure. Sun exposure is also bad for your rope, because what it does, along with heat, what that does to the rope is that it just puts wear and tear on the sheath and inside the core. Sounds weird, doesn't sound like it would, but it does. So be very, very careful about just coming home and just throwing your rope into the backyard and just having it laying out there, because obviously that kind of exposure to the elements is bad. In terms of heat, like one of the weird things is try not to, you know, like throw your rope into your trunk and that's where you store it. Because, you know, again, like especially here, well, not really here in LA. I live on the west side, so you know, it doesn't get terribly hot, but for you guys where it's always hot in the summer, like having your rope in the trunk, oh, like that's a bad thing. And on top of keeping it in your trunk in the heat, I also keep like my mobile oil in my trunk and my, you know, like my coolant in the trunk. Heaven forbid you get any chemicals that will touch the rope and then it eats away at the rope. Not saying that, you know, like my oil and my, you know, my coolant is just like roaming around, but, you know, heaven forbid like there ends up being some kind of like leak and then, you know, it gets on my rope, because that would really be horrible. But, you know, chemicals will eat away at the sheath and the core, so you kind of don't want that to happen. So don't get any chemicals on it. I guess the quick and easy answer is get a rope bag, because having a rope bag will you'll have a way to keep it in some kind of self-contained unit that will be able to keep away, or more than having your rope exposed out, sun heating chemicals, right? That'll be a thing. The other thing is that if you get a really nice rope bag, typically rope bags come with some kind of tarp, and when you go outdoors you can lay the tarp out, and then after flaking the rope out, you lay it on top of, or when you flake your rope out, you can flake it on top of the tarp so it just doesn't lay in the dirt. That's a pretty cool thing, because that's a really good way to keep your rope clean. So having a rope bag really helps with that whole process of, you know, rope maintenance. And the other thing for me is I typically, when we go out, is I carry all the metal. So I'll carry the carabiners, the quick draws, all that metal stuff, and then I'll give the rope, because it's in its own self-contained bag, to somebody else, so I'm not carrying all the weight as we hike out to, you know, wherever we're going to climb. So it's a good way to to divide the work, you know, on the hike in. So that's another good thing about having a rope bag, is that I don't feel like I'm doing all the work when I hike out somewhere. So in terms of rope maintenance, try to keep it away from dirt, try to keep it away from the sun, the heat, and chemicals. Just a few things to think about. Obviously there's more that you want to think about, but those are some like really good guidelines, right? They're, you know, Google more, maybe Google, and maybe you'll find more, and that'll really help. Another thing I want to talk about, since I have your attention, is I just want to take the time to say thank you for everybody that tunes in and watches. And I know it's been a while since we posted something, and all of our last posts is like, hey, look, we got this stuff. Hey, look, we got this, we got this, we got this. And all we're really doing is we're just taking the time to do our due diligence and really kind of, you know, doing a comprehensive review and just testing all this stuff out for you guys, because, you know, it would be really, really weird to like get a pair of shoes and then all of a sudden 5 days later we're like, hey, here's a review, because that isn't very cool. Like a prime example would be the Evolve crash pads, which, man, Evolve, thank you so much. You guys are an amazing company, and thank you for believing in us. But we got those Evolve crash pads, and those Maverick crash pads are so dope, but it would be weird if we weren't super comprehensive about that, right? Like if we got the crash pads and gave you a review like 5 seconds later. So I've been out climbing with them. Eric has been out climbing with them. We've got like 1 or 2 more trips planned for like the whole entire team for us to go out and climb with them. So not only have I been climbing with them, but Eric's borrowed them and he's been going out climbing with them. But also we have like this whole, you know, Plastic Fantastic Clean Team climbing trip for all of us to go out with them. And if we do that, that feels like we're doing a really good job of reviewing them instead of, you know, like only using them once or twice, right? And I just feel like it would be fair to you guys if, you know, we didn't do a poor job on not really testing that stuff out. So just thank you for being really, really patient, because we really appreciate you guys, and we really appreciate the feedback that we've been getting. We appreciate the follows on Instagram, and we appreciate anybody watching these videos. Subscribe if you really love them. Side note, but, you know, I just wanted to throw out there that just give us a little bit of time for us to be a little bit more comprehensive, and that's all. Because, you know, we really love doing an awesome job for you guys, and this is just part of it. So, you know, I just want to throw that out there. And as a final thing before I say goodbye, I always say this, it's because it's really true. We really appreciate you guys watching. We really, really do. And for all the stuff that we talked about with the ropes, just kind of use this as like a guideline, or use it as that little small thing that will be the itch that you want to scratch for you guys to start Googling things so you can learn more about ropes and learn about the things that add wear and tear to your rope. Because really what we want to do is that we just want to, you know, give you guys some information, even though it's not super duper, you know, like it's really hard for us to give you definitives on like when you should retire a rope, but we just want to like urge you guys to do some research on it. And maybe that was the whole purpose of the video, is for us to motivate you guys to watch this, get some kind of guideline, and then maybe for you guys to go out and like do your own research. Because, you know, we do some amazing stuff, but we also put ourselves at risk when we do it. So everybody here at Plastic Fantastic wants all of you guys to be safe anyways. So this is a great way for us to do that, is just to inform you guys a little bit and then motivate you guys to go out and learn more about rope safety. So on that note, this is Jeremy from Plastic Fantastic Climbing. We really appreciate you guys. We love that you guys tune in. Subscribe if you guys are super into like what we're doing, or subscribe anyways. And we will talk to you guys soon. Alright, you guys. Bye.